All right, folks, sorry for the late start tonight. I had a Republican meeting at school, so we just started an hour late. But we are here tonight on the VinceDao Show. We got quite a few hot topics to talk about. It's going to be more of a discussion stream about certain issues, but it is quite important. May get kind of contentious. Stay tuned. It'll be fun. Let's do this. And we are live tonight from the great state of Florida. Welcome everyone to the VinceDao Show. It is September 20th, the year of our Lord 2023. I am a more clean-shaven host, VinceDao, because all right, let's address this, okay? So, as you guys know, over the weekend I did the whole Abraham Lincoln thing as a joke, and I said if Florida beats Tennessee, we're gonna do this, and we did. And then I totally forgot. I'm actually supposed to go on Tim Pool's show, Timcast IRL, on Friday. So be sure to tune into that on Friday, this Friday. And I was like, okay, well, you can't go on looking that much of an idiot. Like, that's not funny anymore. So, you know, the beard is getting a little restart here. Okay, we'll be back, but that's what's going on. Anyways, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I know we did start late, so let us get right into our coverage for tonight. But before we do that, everyone right now, be sure to leave a like on the stream, subscribe if you are new, and as usual, if you would like to super chat to support the show, you know, the ways to do so are obviously in the YouTube live chat as well as on Streamlabs. With that said, we got a member chat here from Dollar for Dollar who says, hey Vince, what's up? How are things? I'm at Liberty University right now for my visit. I already got accepted. I start in January, where things here are quite busy, to tell you the truth, but they are indeed good. And yeah, of course, best of luck at Liberty. So definitely, that's very cool. I'll have to come up and hang out with you sometime. We'll go to Flames game, okay? I want Hugh Freeze. Oh, Hugh Freeze is not there anymore. Never mind. Best of luck though at Liberty. Appreciate the member chat, Dollar for Dollar. All right, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, got nothing else. Let us get right into the show tonight. And look, all right, let's start it this way. A lot of people are going to get mad at the things I'm about to say. I fully understand the reasons why. And the people who are about to get mad, let me say that I used to be in your shoes, and I'm going to explain that all in a second. But before we even get into this subject, I want to read one of the most famous quotes in American history from Teddy Roosevelt, because it 100% applies here, okay? So I'm saying this at the beginning so that way you can keep this principle in mind before we discuss what we're going to discuss on the abortion issue, and on this issue of, you know, is it losing us elections? Is it not? We're going to talk about in a second. But let me read this quote, the famous man in the arena quote from Teddy Roosevelt first before we do that, okay? So here it is. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that this place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. Very important quote as we discuss what I'm going to talk about tonight. And like I said, those of you who are inevitably going to get mad at me and come at me for the things I'm about to say, I implore you to consider what I just said there. The timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. Okay. With that said, let us get into it, because the question of, look, let me say this in the beginning. We are all pro-life here, I would imagine, okay? I absolutely am 100% pro-life. the end goal for me is a federal ban on all abortion. That's the end goal. That's what I want to see one day. Hopefully in my lifetime, maybe not, I don't know, but that's what I want to see one day, right? Because I believe 100% abortion is murder. There are no excuses or exceptions for murder. Murder is murder. It's basically that simple, right? But we also have to talk about this, which is that it seems to be, people are alleging, I will say, that it is an issue that is losing us elections. So, to contextualize, recently, I believe as of yesterday, we actually suffered a 34-point loss in a New Hampshire special election. As you know, New Hampshire is a slightly left-leaning state, but a swing state, a state that Republicans can win at the state level. You know, it's an up for grabs state. And last night, we lost by 34 points in a state house race. Now, some people are accusing it being of Donald Trump's fault, which I think is a bit of a stretch. But what's very important to point out here is that this candidate, Jim Guzofsky, right, ran on a very hardline abortion agenda, right? So he said, 100%, we're going to, from my understanding, he basically says, we're going to ban all abortions. We're going to do it now. Abortion is... he took the full-on pro-life stance for political position. But what happened as a result of it is that he lost by 34 points. And this is a trend we seem to be seeing repeatedly since the Dobbs ruling, which is that in important swing states, right? In a deep red state, yes, there is no excuse why a state like Mississippi should not be doing a blanket abortion ban, because they have the general sentiment and consensus on their side to do it 100%. But what seems to be happening is that in the tight up for grabs swing states, in the purple states, the candidates who run very hard-lined pro-life agendas, we're seeing this time and time again, right? I'm not saying it's the only reason, but time and again, it seems like they are losing, and they're losing badly. That's important to keep in mind as we look at the other side of this, which is this week, a lot of people, right, as you may be familiar with, maybe you engaged in yourself, were getting pretty mad at Donald Trump for kind of being squishy on the abortion issue, right? He kind of doesn't want to talk about it. He wants to stay out of it, clearly for electability purposes. It seems to me he understands it's kind of a political landmine that he doesn't want to walk over when he's tiptoeing the eggshells of trying to win what's going to be a very difficult general election. A lot of people got mad at Trump this week, so it's important to contrast. Okay, one hand, Donald Trump, he kind of wants to fence sit on the abortion issue, leave it just, obviously, and by the way, he has credit for overturning Roe v. Wade, but now going into 2024, he's kind of trying to just stay out of it. Meanwhile, the Republicans in states like New Hampshire is going to be an up for grab state in 2024, who are going hardcore on the pro-life side, are just getting absolutely destroyed. Okay. So that's all to contextualize the conversation we're going to have tonight, which is the debate between either winning elections or taking, on the campaign trail, a 100%, hard line, we're going to ban all abortions type of stance. Okay. So the line I very often hear on this topic is people will defend Republicans losing elections like this, 34 points, for instance, very blowout loss for considering what you have in New Hampshire, right? They'll defend it with this very phrase. They'll say, I'd rather lose elections than compromise on the issue of life, right? I'd rather lose an election and take a firm stand on abortion than win the election and not take a stand on abortion, not be pro-life, okay? To which I say, on the surface, if that were the choice, I would agree with that statement. And don't get me wrong, I've said that statement a million times in my life. Actually, that used to be me. I used to say that exact line. And so, it's more so a matter of, now that I guess I've matured and gotten older and think about this more critically, the more you have to realize in many ways, that is a false dichotomy. It is a false choice to say either you have to choose between winning elections and standing for pro-life. Because, again, don't get me wrong. Abortion is murder. My end goal is a total federal ban on abortion. That's what I want to see, okay? So, I understand I'm going to be considered inadequately pro-life for saying that I think that's a false dichotomy, but whatever, okay? I don't care, okay? But the reality of the situation, folks, is this. To all the pro-lifers this week who are, getting very angry at the Republican Party for whatever reasons, right? Is that the reality of the situation is that you cannot stop abortions without winning elections. That's why I say it's a false dichotomy. It's a false choice. There's no choice between winning elections and stopping abortions because, objectively speaking, if you do not win elections, you cannot stop abortions in any way. In fact, very often, who's going to win? A pro-choice Democrat who wants to push even further left on the issue of abortion, right? Now, perhaps our political system shouldn't be that way. And I share those sentiments, okay? I complain about the way democracy works all the time. I wish it weren't like this in this country where, an issue as important as saving life has to be an incremental progress and we have to work towards it. I understand. And if you're an older person in this country, it's taken so many decades, you're probably getting a little bit impatient too. I totally get that, okay? But in a sense, this is the political system that we're stuck with, is it not? Again, if I had my ideal vision of American government, it probably wouldn't look like it does right now. It's the truth. But this is the game that is in front of us, right? So we have two choices, chess analogy. This is the chessboard in front of us. Maybe it's not the best position, but either we resign and just forfeit the game, or we try to play from, again, the game that's in front of us and try to find the best path to victory. Which is why I say again, folks, you cannot stop abortion without winning elections. How do you do that? And that is the thing, is that a lot of people, here's the thing. It's easy for pro-lifers to virtue signal and purity spiral when we don't have any political power. It's very easy. It is the easiest thing in the world to go on Twitter and say, none of the Republican Party adequately stands for life. I'm done with this party. Donald Trump didn't give a clear answer on it. We need a federal ban on abortion, and you all suck and you're all inadequate. But again, man in the arena quote we read in the beginning, that's something to keep in mind, right? So that's the easy thing to do. It's actually much easier to run as a Republican candidate on a totally unelectable abortion position, lose that election, enable the pro-choice side to push even further and say, well, at least I never compromised. Right? It's easy to not be the man in the arena. That is the easiest thing in the world to do. It's the easiest thing in the world for me to just preach to the choir here on this stream because I don't actually have to do it. But I'm understanding as I get older, it's like, here's how it actually works. And my concern is twofold, okay? My concern is twofold. First of all, my number one concern is actually stopping abortions, okay? It's easy to virtue signal again and purity spiral about how you want to stop abortions, but I want to stop abortions. I actually want them to be physically prevented by law. And then, like I said, on the other side, in the end, I want to push the Overton window, right? Push the culture and the political discussion to the point where we have a total ban on abortion. But how do you get there? The truth, again, and this is just how the American political system works, I agree that it sucks, but it is how it works, right? Is that incremental progress is necessary and is going to be necessary. Think for a moment about how the left took over this country. Did they take it over overnight? in the 1960s? Were they immediately teaching communism in the elementary schools? Or was that a slow, gradual push over time? What did they do? Think about this. If you want to win the game, you got to consider how they won the game. How did the left basically take over this country? They picked at the time what they thought were the most winnable positions, whether that's, say, you know, quote unquote equality or free speech or the Vietnam War, inserted themselves into there. And then once they won those, again, they won the most winnable battles. And as you win the most winnable battles, then new gateways open up. You start pushing and pushing, whether you want to consider it an Overton window or a slippery slope, however you want to see it. That's how they did it. And that's ultimately how you affect political change in America. Think about what they did with gay marriage, right? For years, it was gay marriage. And then a lot of people, perhaps naively, but a lot of people said, well, you know, I don't really have an issue with marriage. I mean, it's them doing what they want to do. Again, that was to them a winnable battle. Once they won the battle, what did they push towards next? How fast did that happen, right? But you have to win the battle first. You have to win the first battle first. So that's all to say this, right? Which is that, objectively speaking, I would rather, let's say it's a swing state. Let's just say it's something like New Hampshire. I don't know. Arizona, whatever state you want to say. There's two ways you can go about it. Let's say it's a Republican, a Democrat, it's a close race, okay? So either you can say, again, this is a swing state. This is not a deep red state. Okay, so you as the Republican can either campaign on saying, I want a 15-week, let's say, 15, 20 weeks, whatever. I want a kind of soft-core abortion ban. And then because that's quote-unquote electable, that's quote-unquote popular, or... Okay, sorry. I don't know why my phone started playing the stream, okay? So what was I saying? Yeah, so either, right, you do that, and then you win the election, and you're able to institute a realistic political compromise, which is a 15-week abortion ban, which, again, objectively does save lives. Now, is it the perfect solution? No. Is our end goal a total abortion ban? Of course it is. But objectively speaking, abortion to me is such an urgent issue that it's like, okay, if we can save lives now and this is doable, I'd rather have that than not have that, right? So you can either do that, or you can run on a quote-unquote extreme. I'm not going to use that word. Others would use that word. I don't think it's extreme to be totally pro-life. I think that's actually, when you think about it, the rational thing to be. But as they will say it, you can run as the guy who's going to say we're going to do a blanket ban on all abortion, lose the election. The Democrat is now the governor of that state and now institutes, let's say, a total no limits on abortion, or legalizes permanent funding to Planned Parenthood and partial birth abortion and all the crazy stuff. And in the end, I say, what is truly more virtuous? Doing what you realistically can and having takes time, but pushing the needle of progress towards our direction, or quote unquote standing on your principles, which I would argue, what's the point of standing on your principles if you're not going to enact those principles? But that's what you're going to say, right? And then enabling the pro-choice side to literally just take over every state in this country, win federally, win the presidency, all of it. And we have no capacity or no power to save lives because we were ultimately basically too scared to be the man in the arena. That's really the compromise here. That's why I say it's a false choice between, again, stopping abortions and winning elections. Okay? And by the way, let me also point this out. Again, something like, I don't know, a 15-week abortion ban. That's not ideal. I get it. I don't want that to be the end solution. Sure. But what does that do? Let me tell you why that's a net good thing, besides the fact that it's going to stop some abortions, which is a good thing. Even if it doesn't stop all of them, it's progress, again. Is that it opens the door for more, right? The more you slowly push back the needle, the more doors are now open, okay? So in the future, when the country gets more conservative and more pro-life on these issues, perhaps setting the precedent in 2024 or 2025, whatever, of doing that temporary or short, halfway abortion ban ultimately becomes the building block on which to do the permanent abortion ban. Whereas if you didn't have that, now you have a much higher ladder to climb. You see how this all works? You see how the reality of American politics works? That's just how it is, right? And so this is all to say, am I necessarily happy that Donald Trump, it kind of fence sits on the issue of abortion on the federal level? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But at the same time, this is, again, a matter of the whole man in the arena debate, which is, would you rather have him take a position that reality of the situation, again, is just totally unwinnable in the context of American politics right now, maybe in the future, hopefully we get there, and just, lose to the side that is totally pro-choice? Or would you rather have him navigate it carefully and then, again, build the foundations upon which to further our crusade on this issue in the future? And I had someone come to me saying today, so you're saying you think we should lie on this issue? What's good about lying? Lying is a bad thing. No, I'm not even saying to lie. Let me be clear about that. I'm not saying to lie at all. Glenn Youngkin does a good job of this, actually. If you ever heard Glenn Youngkin talk about the issue of abortion, and I think we've talked about it on this channel, he actually does this incredibly masterfully. Because what he will basically say, look, I'm pro-life, and here's what we did as a solution in a blue state to do what we could to advance the pro-life cause. Because I think in Virginia, they're talking about, say, I think a 20-week ban on abortion or something. Because he's working with a Democrat legislature and all that, right? So what did he say? He said, I'm pro-life, and we're going to do what we realistically can, working with both sides as we have to on this issue. That's all you have to say. You don't have to lie and say, I'm not pro-life, or, abortion isn't murder. Of course it is. What I'm saying is that when it comes to the platform you campaign on, as a Republican, I don't necessarily take issue with the Republican picking, like I said, this is what the left did to win over the culture war, picking a winnable position, taking that position, achieving that position, and then hopefully the Republican in the cycle after that builds on that position. And again, let me reiterate this to the people who are going to say this is not pro-life or this is anti-pro-life, whatever it is. Again, it is very easy to virtue signal about this issue. It's the easiest thing in the world. But I want to stop abortions. I want to work towards a future where abortions don't exist in America. So how do we get there? So that's my challenge to the people who think my take on this is wrong and I should, no Republican should ever campaign on anything but a total abortion ban. How do we get there? What's the pathway to getting there? Because what I at least hope I'm trying to present here is a viable political and legislative and cultural, to a sense too, pathway to, over time in our lifetimes, see abortion get restricted, and hopefully gone over time. What you are presenting in many cases is not a solution. There's no solution. Because I always ask these people, I say, okay, then what is your proposal? What do you think we should do? How do you think we should do it? What's the plan here? And I've never once heard it. All I've heard is, again, people purity spiraling, people moralizing as the man outside of the arena, but they have no advice or solution as to how to act as the man in the arena on this subject, right? So there's my long-winded answer on our opening topic tonight of how should Republicans approach the abortion issue. Is that we should pick whatever the circumstances, right? So if you're running as Mississippi, you should be 100%. We're going to ban all abortion. There's no reason you shouldn't. You will win the state. That's fine. If you're running for president, however, maybe that's not the smartest winnable position to take, right? And we explained earlier the virtue of taking a winnable position and why you need to do that if you want the pro-life cause to actually go anywhere over time. So it's all situational, right? You know, and maybe certain states you can take a more hardline position. Certain states is not as smart, and take the Glenn Youngkin approach. Don't lie. Don't say, oh, I don't think abortion is murder. Don't say anything like that, obviously. Just say, okay, I'm pro-life, and here's my realistic solution given the circumstances we have politically to get to a more pro-life place than we were before. That's how representative government works. Unless you're with me on changing the form of government, okay? Unless you're going to say we need to establish a Christian theocracy in America, which, you know, I'm not even saying I'd be against that. But it's not happening. I don't see it happening, right? Like right now, right? So I'm like, okay, we're stuck with the current form of government. How do we advance the pro-life cause to the best of our ability within that government? It is what it is. Let's read the live chat's opinion on all of this because, you know, I definitely, I'm sure this is going to be quite contentious. So, yeah, let's get caught up here now on our super chats. I know we did quite a few, so I appreciate the support tonight, guys. And let's read these. I mean, let's have a discussion about this because, honestly, a lot of the rest of the news cycle is pretty dead, and I'm more than happy to hear out other opinions on the subject. So let's get into these. All right. First one here, Eric Peterson for $5. Thank you very much. Eric Peterson says, hope all's been well. I like 9 o'clock start so I can watch you live. Did you grow the beard for me? Well, Eric Peterson, I don't think you've been around for a while. It was actually much thicker before. But yes, I grew it for you, Eric Peterson, of course. Okay, we love Eric Peterson. Yeah, I've talked before about doing a 9 o'clock start. And I did a poll, and most people said they want to keep the 8 o'clock start. So I don't know. Truthfully, 9 o'clock is easier for me. It gives me more time in the day to kind of get stuff done and then get ready for this and get videos and homework and whatever else done. But, you know, we'll see. I mean, the viewership tonight is not bad for a sudden change in start time. So, you know, I don't know. We'll play around with it and maybe do a survey at another point for sure. Thank you for the $5 though, Eric Peterson. I appreciate it very much. Let's get into our other super chats here. Shane Keena for $5 says, it's like choosing to sit on your couch on game day at the house versus buying a single game ticket and showing up to the stadium. It's different. Thank you for the $5, Shane Keena. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why we say, right? Man in the arena. You know? It's like, you're exactly right. It's like you sat at home during the game and then said the crowd wasn't loud enough when you could have bought a ticket to the game. It's true. Not a bad analogy. Thank you for the $5, Shane Keena. I appreciate it very much. Let's see else here. Christopher for $10 says, I'm a pro-life Catholic, but we live in the world where wickedness is the majority because of democracy. We have fallen so much as a country that accepting sin as a right, we have to be smart fighting this. Thank you for the $10, Christopher. Yeah, and that's absolutely the case I am making too here, right? It's not that we shouldn't fight it. It's that, again, we're stuck, okay? We're kind of stuck in a majority rule situation. And I know people say it's not a 100% majority rule because the Constitution, blah, blah. It still is based on popular consensus in one way or another, right? So I look at it as, okay, again, you know, I didn't choose to be born here necessarily, okay? God did, right? So, but this is the situation I'm in. I'm here. So how do I win this game in front of me? I think that's actually a very good approach, not just to politics, but to life, right? There's no point in sitting around and complaining and wishing that the circumstances were different or wishing you could play a different game, right? This is what you have. You were born in the 20th or 21st century in the United States of America. This is how the government works. This is the system, blah, blah, blah. So with given in mind what you have in front of you, what's the best solution forward to achieve the worldview that you want to see? What other way is there to look at politics and life ultimately than that? You know, you can wish, you know, like it's kind of a trend on TikTok or whatever, right? Or Reddit, whatever it is. You can wish you lived in the Roman Empire. Yeah. Some of us all do sometimes, but you don't. You can wish you lived in, I don't know, you know, Charlemagne's Holy Roman Empire or the British, whatever. Anytime you can wish you lived in the 50s, whatever, but you don't, right? So, you know, the correct approach to this issue is to say, all right, this is what we have. What do we do about it? It's true. Thank you for the $10, Christopher. I appreciate it very much. We got another Christopher. Two Christophers, and they're different Christophers. All right, here we go. Christopher... Oh, there you go. Christopher Alcine for $5 says, to end abortion, we need to give women alternative options, namely adoption and foster care. Thank you for the $5, Christopher Alcine. And, you know, this is true. Now, I will say the pro-choicers say this a lot and very often act as if no such options exist. But you are right. You are right. I mean, you know, there's always room for improvement, especially with the foster care system, but it's true. Thank you for the $5, Christopher. I appreciate it. Shane Keena for $5 says, just slowly and subtly shift our rhetoric based on our political position. Pragmatism. Thank you for the $5, Shane Keena. Exactly my point. All right, well, I'm glad to see people are agreeing with me because, you know, anytime you say this, there's always going to be that side of the pro-life movement who just wants to virtue signal and doesn't want to really propose an alternative. So I'm glad to see we have agreement. And this is how you have to view politics. And ultimately, like I said, life as well, right? Which is be idealistic in your vision and pragmatic in your strategy and approach. It's that simple. It really is that simple, right? People will say I'm a pragmatist. I don't think I'm a pragmatist. I think I'm actually a really big idealist in the sense of I have an ideal of what I want America to look like. Okay? And it's you know, in the context of today, it's probably a pretty far out there ideal. But I also recognize that, which is why I say, okay, well, with my ideals in mind, with my vision in mind, what is the best way to get one step closer every day to my ideal vision of the country? And, you know, again, if people don't like my prescription on that, that's fine. But what's the alternative? Do they present one? Do they say one? Or, like I said, is it very often just kind of a virtue signal, kind of a purity spiral, right? This is true. This is 100% true. So thank you for the $5, Shane Keene. I appreciate it very much. Let's take a look here. Sam Matson for $5. Thank you very much, Sam Matson. Sorry, Streamlabs is lagging, so I'll play your little noise in a second. But for the $5 says there will be a pro-abortion amendment on the Missouri ballot in 2024. How do you think that will go? Thank you for the $5, Sam Matson. I mean, I think I'd like to see the language of it. The language of it will definitely matter because you get a lot of these referendums where, you know, who the heck wrote this, right? It's framed so poorly. So that will definitely matter a lot. But yeah, I mean, truthfully, I don't know how optimistic I am about it in a realistic sense, because Missouri is a red state, but it's kind of like the soft red state, right? It's not deep southern red like it used to be, kind of a swing state just about a decade and a half ago. So I think when you kind of consider how the abortion amendment went in Kansas, which Kansas is a red state, obviously, but it's kind of more of that soft core red state, you know, newer red, whatever, not as socially conservative. And I'm pretty sure the abortion amendment they did there lost by 10 points or something, right? So, you know, the presidential election will definitely add maybe a few points in our favor on that side. But if I were to compare it to the Kansas one, I would say, yeah, I don't think, truthfully, I'm not sure it's going to win. Now, obviously, if you live in Missouri, everyone go vote on that amendment. I don't know what it is. Obviously, vote the pro-life side. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm the most optimistic about it, Sam. Just based on Missouri's kind of political profile, and you compare it to, again, a state like Kansas. Wasn't there, I don't know if it was Nebraska or Iowa. I'm pretty sure there was something similar in one of those kind of red states, but not like traditional Republican lock kind of states, you know? And I think you might have seen a similar result there too. So I'm not sure, but thank you for the $5, Sam. Yeah, I don't know how necessarily optimistic I would be about that either. But this is true. Missouri will go to Trump by a huge margin. Can't see how there will be Trump and pro-choice winning at once. Well, you know, Luis, sometimes things are strange. Now, I hope you're right. I hope you're right. But, you know, you look, like I said, look what happened in Kansas. Kansas loves Trump, you know, red state. Biden ain't exactly campaigning there even to swing it. But I'm pretty sure the abortion thing there lost by like 10 points, right? Wasn't there something similar? I know up Midwest there was something similar. So, like I said, definitely go campaign on it, go vote for it or against it, whatever the right one is. But I'm just saying, based on what I've seen in kind of a state with that profile, I don't know. And you are right. The presidential election will go in our favor. It'll help the amendment potentially. But still, I don't know. Because the other thing too is, another thing with Republicans is that very often we just tend to leave ballot amendments blank, which is kind of fine when you think about it very often, because a lot of the propositions are just stupid. Like, we don't need new things, just get out of here, right? But it does also beg the question, how many Republicans on the presidential ballot are just going to leave the amendment or proposition, whatever they call it, they're blank? So that's another thing to consider. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, thank you for the $5 there, Sam Madsen. Let's take a look here. Shane Keena for $5 says, what are your thoughts on the black Republican activist Rob Smith? Is he too pessimistic? Want to pick your brain here. Pessimist, I don't know. I don't exactly follow him really closely these days. And, I'm not really here to start conversations one way or the other about other influencers. But, I know in the past, I don't really know how he is now or what he believes now. I know in the past, he's a little bit more on the liberal side of the conservative tent, we will say, right? And that's always been kind of a thing with him. And like I said, I haven't really paid attention to him in years, so I don't know. But I don't know. Be more detailed. What is he saying? And then we can evaluate it. All right, that's what I'll say. But thank you for the $5, Shane Keene. I appreciate it. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about specifically, so you can specify, and then we can comment on it, right? But anyways, thank you for the $5. Eric Peterson for $5. I got a lot of super chats here now. Eric Peterson for $5 says, is it this one? Yes. If Trump gets the White House back, how confident are you on his judge appointments on the second go around? Thank you for the $5, Eric Peterson. I mean, it depends how many he's going to get the second go around. Like, who's going to retire? I guess Thomas or whatever, right? I would say it's probably honestly about the same. I think you're going to see about the same. Because on one hand, don't get me wrong, is it true that a lot of the Supreme Court picks were just kind of meh? Now look, we did overturn Roe v. Wade, so I don't think you can exactly say they were all a bust the first time around, because look, all the Trump justices voted to overturn it, which, okay, that's kind of the big Supreme Court issue for conservatives. But the issue I see is not even a matter of Trump's judgment. It's a matter of, if not them, then who else, right? When you look at the bench of potential judges that ideally you'd put to the Supreme Court, the reality in this country is very often they tend to be more sort of establishment, right? Very often Supreme Court judges, what's their life path? Prestigious law school, prestigious lawyer, then become a judge, then, brush these elbows, shake these hands, and, eventually... And that's what you got to keep in mind, too. We talk about the Trump revolution and how it transforms the Republican Party, or slowly doing so. But in order to be a potential pick from... for the Supreme Court now, you would have to be basically have come up through law and the legal industry during H.W. Bush, W. Bush, right? All of those days. So that's the issue with it. That's the issue why, as much as we want to complain about a lot of Trump's justices, even the second go around, who are we going to pick that's necessarily better? Because don't get me wrong, I do think Trump definitely wants, hard right people, hard in favor of Trump justices on his side on that Supreme Court. But who are you going to choose? Because the other thing to keep in mind is, well, it has to get through the Senate, and you got to get, ideally, you got to get all the Republicans to vote for it. And so they have, that's the other problem here, right? Is they have a say too, right? Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham, probably are going to have a say too. So how do you balance all those interests? How do you make that happen? It's not necessarily easy. So I hope that we do get good justices, but truthfully, to answer your question, man, I don't know. I don't know. I would honestly expect you're probably gonna get more mess as usual, But who knows? Maybe you find a little diamond in the rough that's basically Clarence Thomas 2.0. I mean, I certainly hope so, right? I certainly hope so. But let's take a look at our other super chats here. Dollar for $2 says, I'm doing my cross-country solos next week. Well, have fun with that. You're flying a plane across the country? That's kind of sick. That's honestly a bucket list thing. Congratulations, man. Very cool. Sam Matson for $5 says it's not a pro-choice. It's not a pro-life amendment. It's a pro-choice amendment. Okay, to expand abortion, basically. I don't know. I mean, like I'd have to see what's actually on the ballot, but like I said, that honestly doesn't matter. It's going to come down to how it's worded, right? That's always how it is. That's always how these ballot propositions are. California, for instance, I think the most famous one was that gas tax amendment. If you might remember this, I think this was 2018, right? There was a proposition that got on the ballot to abolish the state gas tax. But because the Secretary of State in California, I believe, is able to kind of decide the wording of the amendment itself, the amendment to repeal the gas tax basically said something along the lines of, hey, we're going to take away funding for the roads and infrastructure, cut funding for infrastructure. Like, that said something like that, because on paper, the California gas tax is supposed to be for rebuilding the roads. Now, obviously, does that get done? No. Is it bogus? Yes. Are the roads in California atrocious and still are? Yes. But that's what it's on paper for. So they wrote the amendment basically to say, do you want to repeal funding for infrastructure? They got, and then guess what happened? It failed, and they still have a gas tax there. So, that's what it's going to come down to, honestly, is how the amendment itself is worded. I think that's going to play a big role. All right, last super chat here before we move on to other discussions. We got a $10 from Paul Kim for the $10. Thank you very much, Paul Kim. Good to see you. Says, what are your thoughts on the liberal news media featuring today, i.e., that Ivanka and Kushner also monetarily benefited in the same manner as Joe Biden's son? Thank you for the $10, Paul Kim. I mean, here's the thing, is that I'm not the biggest Jared Kushner fan, and I'm not really here to defend him. I really thought he was a net negative to the Trump administration. However, whatever he did, in the Middle East or whatever, he actually served, right, in the Trump White House. He was actually doing an official role. And I think that's a little different from literally just going over to Ukraine and saying, I'm Joe Biden's son, I can buy you leverage with the president, and then cutting giant Burisma oil deals, or natural gas deals, I should say, and just walking away with a bunch of money from it, right? So I think it's a totally false parallel. And that's not even to defend Jared Kushner, because I'm not even the biggest fan of the guy. But I don't think the situations really are all that the same in any way. But yeah, thank you for the $10, Paul Kim. Appreciate it very much. That's your first super chat. Let's go, Paul Kim. Appreciate it very much, man. All right, this should be the last super chat before we move on here a little bit. Shane Kina for $5 says, gotta replace Chief Justice John Roberts, I think, before Clarence Thomas. Replace a handicap with an enforcer. Well, the issue is age, obviously. John Roberts is still pretty young. Clarence Thomas is getting up there in age, and so that's why I say a replacement like him is probably going to have to come. But yeah, I mean, I hope Clarence Thomas serves on that court till he's 100,010, because he really is you really think about it, he's really the only true conservative on that entire court. But, I don't know. Where do you find a guy like him? I'm not an expert on judges or the whole legal thing. I'm not a pre-law guy, so I don't know all of that. But, if you can find someone like that who could get nominated by the Senate, I'd say go for it. But that's why I say it's a little bit harder than people think it is, It's a little harder than people think. People think it's just as easy as, oh, Donald Trump can just pick, I don't know, people have said like Ted Cruz. Okay, let's just put Ted Cruz up there, this guy, that guy, this guy we like, that guy we like. It's a little more complicated than that because, there's kind of this, it shouldn't be more complicated than that, but it is because you got to get the Senate to clear it. And they very often want someone for credibility's sake who has the legal background. And so it's like, okay. And then when you go down the list of conservative judges out there, like I said, the ones who are now kind of eligible for Supreme Court conversation are people who have been around for a lot of years. Law school itself, even when it's more right-leaning, is more establishment, old school neocon, you could say. So it's very hard in respected quote-unquote legal circles to truly find people who are hardcore on our side, right? It's genuinely not the easiest thing. But yeah, thank you for the $5. Was that Shane Keena? Thank you for the 5, Shane Keena. All right, with that said, let's shift gears a little bit here. There's a couple other stories I want to talk about, but mainly the big discussion I wanted to have tonight was over the abortion stuff. But really quickly, as we wrap this all up here, let me just point this one thing out. So on Monday, we talked about the rape and sexual assault allegations that have come out against Russell Brand. Now, we talked about it extensively 2 days ago, but just kind of as a refresher here. Long story short, Russell Brand, as many people know, very recently started speaking out last few years against because, by the way, he was a big-time Hollywood and show business guy, total liberal. Last few years, he's had a little bit of a shift. I don't even know if he's a full-on conservative these days, but he spoke out against COVID tyranny. He has interviewed people like Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson and kind of like, breaking the norm of Hollywood. And then, in very convenient timing, suddenly then rape allegations, not from recently, but from 2006 to 2013, have suddenly surfaced from totally anonymous accusers. It seems to me they went to the media, but not the police, which, when you're willing to take those accusations to the media, but not to law enforcement or the legal system, it's already a red flag already. But still, regardless, I've maintained the take. I don't know if they're true or not, obviously. What I do know is that the timing is certainly strange of all of this, is it not? Because either one of two things are true. Either they just, A, made these up because they're trying to cancel him, which seems very likely. Or B, I would say even if they are true, it means that Hollywood, while Russell Brand was on their side for so many years, knew about this, covered it up, swept this under the rug. And then only now that he's a problem for them, he's a liability, suddenly now they out the guy for being a rapist. Either way, it's damning for the people, the systems and the people in power and the people in cultural, institutions and all that. Right. We get that. But here's what I want to point out now. And again, the whole thing reeks very strongly of something suspicious, which is that, again, folks, these are allegations. These have not been litigated in a court of law. No charges have been pressed. There's no actual proof of any of this. They're just only allegations, and that's it. And yet, already, Russell Brand was cut from his agency, the agency that books him and manages him, already, right when the media piece dropped, right when the hit piece dropped, without anything else. Got rid of him. His comedy shows that he was supposed to do, have all been postponed. And then here's another one. This came out as of, I believe, yesterday. YouTube has now demonetized Russell Brand's channel. Reason being? Not exactly sure, but of course they're probably using the pretense of the sexual assault allegations, right? So what has happened to the guy? Is that, again, maybe these are true. There's a reason to believe they're not, but they could be. But before this has been litigated in court or anything, this has only been litigated in the eye of the media. That's it. All of a sudden at once, the media puts this together. It drops. And then Hollywood and big tech and all of the stuff that kind of is involved in this stuff uses it all as a pretext to drop the guy from making any money. Agency cuts him off. Shows canceled. YouTube demonetized all at once because of a media documentary allegations on him that, again, like I said, are unsubstantiated and unfounded at this current moment. Again, this all is happening now because he is speaking out for himself, because he is obviously spreading ideas that, you know, go against the mainstream, go against the consensus, certainly piss off all of the people that he used to be buddy-buddy with. All I'm going to say is the timing there is strange, and, you know, when you look at the way it happened, right? That's all I'm going to say. Okay, so there's your update on the Russell Brand thing, is that, you know, very conveniently, he's been institutionally canceled by all the ways he was making his money there. All right, last story for tonight, and then we'll go full on to Super Chats. I do want to react to this because recently, some of you guys may remember this character, right? James, the metrosexual liberal guy who's always on Piers Morgan and saying crazy stuff. I haven't actually watched this yet. We're going to react to this live on the show here for our last segment. But this video is titled, "Mushrooms Can't Be Gay. Piers Morgan debates with James Barr over fungus sexuality." All right. I think that's enough context. We know we're in for a treat. Let's just take a listen. Let's just take a listen.
When we launched this show about 16 months ago, this was the kind of story I had in mind. The Royal Kew Gardens are set to hold an exhibition called Queer Nature at the end of the month. The event promises to break the binary and challenge traditional expectations by showing how fungi and plants have a special connection to the LGBTQ community.
Queer nature to me is basically a very apt description of nature.
For me, queer nature is about rethinking how we see the world around us and our place in it.
Viewing the world of nature as queer is an act of freedom and liberation.
Well, the event promises to bring together horticulturalists, scientists, authors and drag artists, even featuring a performance from a bearded lady and a DJ who will play queer sets. My question for all this is why? Let's get into the weeds of the debate with Outkick host Tommy Laren and the comedian James Barr. James, welcome back.
Sorry, did you launch this show with the idea of talking about gay mushrooms?
Yes.
That's why you launched this.
I have some gay mushrooms here.
Minister, you just wanted to do a...
All right, so gay mushrooms. All right. So as you know, I'm already kind of confused. But my understanding of what's going on here is, you know how the LGBT movement always tries to justify human sexuality by pointing to animal sexuality? They'll say, well, animals are gay because dogs hump each other, which means that, you know what I mean? You know, they try to say that. I guess they're now making the argument that forget animals, forget like breathing things. They're saying fungus is gay. Okay? That's the argument that's being made here, apparently.
Segment about queer mushrooms.
Thank you for teeing up my gay mushrooms.
Wow.
They don't look very gay.
Wow.
I mean, they look like normal mushrooms to me.
Well,
are you feeling a gay connection to these mushrooms?
Listen, I feel a gay connection to a lot of things, Piers, including yourself right now.
Really?
I would say that mushrooms scientifically have about 23,000 different genders. So that's where this exhibit is coming from.
23,000 genders of mushrooms.
Exactly.
Okay, there's not, mate. This is a mushroom.
No, well, ask a scientist if you don't believe me.
I've got to ask a scientist. This is called a mushroom. That's it.
But they're fungi.
Nothing sexual about mushrooms.
What? Sex is not about mushrooms, no.
So why are we having some queer celebration of things like mushrooms?
I just don't understand why you care. Why is this such a problem?
I care because I don't see the point of it.
Because
it's ridiculous.
We just had Pride Month, where the entire month was taken up with turning everything LGBTQ, and now it's 2+ something else, right? It's extended. Right? So letters I can't even remember.
The rest of the year is
Why
straight.
does Kew Gardens have to go...
The rest of the year is straight. No, that's not true. That's not true at all. Okay.
Weird. I don't get it.
Why can't it?
Why should it?
Well, because
why can't we just have straight plants?
Because I tell you what it's doing. It's making queer people feel happy, and ultimately, isn't something.
Sorry, but
making
society
people feel
shouldn't
happy
just be
a good
about
thing?
changing everything so that you, James Barr, get your kicks out of looking at a kinky mushroom.
Listen, you might want to spend your life being miserable, but I tell you what really
I'm
is
very
going on
happy.
Here. I tell you
I'm
what's
not miserable
actually
at all.
happening. Like yesterday, you lost an NTA to a gay man, so you've decided to find any story you can to attack queer people because you want to get your own back on Graham Norton.
I hadn't actually thought of that.
That's
but yes.
exactly what's happening.
It is true. It is entirely Graham
and
Norton.
sad.
It's entirely Graham Norton's sexuality that enraged me. Let's bring in Tommy Lehran. Tommy, I just don't know where we start with this.
I feel like him and James are like secretly friends. Okay, and I don't mean that in a gay way. I literally just mean I think they. It seems to me they secretly. Again, I don't mean this in a sexual way at all. I'm just saying I think they secretly enjoy arguing with each other.
Kew Gardens is like the epicenter of British heritage, the establishment. It's like you go there with your mum and dad, you take your cucumber sandwiches, and you look at lovely plants. What you don't do is think about their sexuality or 23,000 genders or have a queer celebration of mushrooms. What is happening?
Well, I'll tell you this, what concerns me is if there are 23,000 genders for mushrooms and fungus, I'm a little concerned because the LGBTQ plus barbecue is already too long for most Americans and most people to memorize. So now if we have 23,000 genders added to that, I'm not sure we want to take our cue from plants. But you hit the nail on the head, Piers. Why does everything have to be about queer this, gay?
Harvard scientists found a type of fungi with over 23,000 sexual identities. Oh, they're Harvard scientists. We're supposed to take these people so seriously. Really? Fungi have sexual identities? Fungi. Okay? It's a fungus. What is that? What does that even mean? But this is science, guys. Harvard is an esteemed academic institution. No, they're all fake. They should be ridiculed for being idiots and nerds.
That, why is that the
100%.
only thing that leftists seem to respond to? It's either race, gender, or climate change. Race, gender, climate change. That's it. Everything has to be gay. Everything has to be about race. Everything has to be about the planet.
Yeah, there has been a whole debate, actually, about whether plants are racist. I remember that one as well. The thing about this...
That's probably a debate that you had, though.
No, but the thing about this, James, is I just don't see the point of it other than to wind people up, which I think you're almost admitting.
No, absolutely
Correct.
not. It's not winding anyone.
But
It's
imagine
winding
if I announced tomorrow...
Actually, I wouldn't say it's to wind people up. I think it's more malicious than that. It's literally to defy reality, right? Because this entire movement is in rebellion against the reality of the world and God and nature and all of it. So the more they can push people to literally just accept very ridiculous things, i.e., Harvard scientists found a new type of fungi with 23,000 sexual identities and say, oh, that's real, right? The more they can get people to just reject basic and observable reality, the more it wins for them. So that I think that's what it's really about.
We're going to go down to Chelsea Flower Show and we're going to have a straight day where straight people like me straight people like me, who, by the way, for the record, are not remotely homophobic, right? Go down to Chelsea Flower Show and we make everything about the sexual affinity.
You did just say Graham Norton's sexuality enraged you. So.
No, it was obviously a joke.
Was it?
You made a stupid, facile point about his sexuality.
Interesting.
But I don't care whether he's gay or not. I care that he beat me. That pisses me off. But let's go back to the Chelsea Flower Show. If I had a straight day or a straight week at the Chelsea Flower Show and started talking about the straight heterosexual affinity that we all felt with fungi and daffodils, you would go completely nuts.
I really wouldn't. And
I said, look at these white, straight gammon abusing us in this manner, excluding us in this manner.
If you and Tommy want to set up a straight mushroom exhibit with loads of straight, grey, boring, binary mushrooms...
I'm not doing it.
Waving guns around, like,
James,
go for it.
I'm not doing it. It's your...
All right, enough of this. All right, enough of this. It's hurting my brain. I'm having a hard time listening to it. All right, with that said, folks, it is 10 p.m. We've been going for exactly 1 hour. We're now open to Super Chats and Q&A because I got nothing else on our normal docket. So we'll do Super Chats and Q&A and read live chat for about 10 to 15 minutes here as usual, and then call it a night. So let's get in now to our Super Chats. Paul Kim sends $1. Thank you very much, Paul Kim. Wait, let me refresh Streamlabs so you can play your little noise. Everyone wants their little noise. This is very true. This is how it... Oh. Okay, Streamlabs is just broken. I'm sorry. Ding! There you go, Paul Kim. Thank you for the $1. I appreciate it. And Charles Ray sends in $20. I have no comment. Just says $20. Thank you very much for the 20. Charles Ray, shout out. Appreciate it. God bless you very much, man. God bless all of our super chatters tonight. And I appreciate the super chats very much, guys. Again, we're now open for them and reading all of them. So, you know, feel free to do so. But here we go. Dollar for $2 says, my ears are bleeding from listening to Stewie people. Oh, here they are. There you go. Is that the new term for British? For British liberals? They're Stewie people? That's kind of funny, actually. I kind of like that. Stewie people. Stewie people. The Stewie Griffins. There you go, Charles Ray. There's your little noise. Let us take a look here. Ronald Reagan won New Hampshire. Well, I mean, he won most states, but you know, this is true. This is true. Jameson B says, do you know anything about the Project 2025 thing? I've heard about it mostly from leftists. Mind you explaining? I don't know what Project 2025 is either. Let's take a look. Project 2025. The Presidential Transition Project paves the way for an effective conservative administration based on 4 pillars. A policy agenda. Where'd I go? I lost it. Okay, it says building now for a conservative victory through policy, personnel, and training. It's not enough for conservatives to win elections. If we're going to rescue the country from the grip of the radical left, we need both a governing agenda and the right people in place ready to carry out this agenda on day one of the next conservative administration. Well, to me, it just sounds like a 501c4 or political action group, whatever it is, to staff the next Republican White House. It sounds like that's all it is to me. And it seems connected to a lot of Steve Bannon types in the war room and all that, which is a good thing, right? That's kind of more on our side. Let's see. Heritage Foundation, American Moment. Okay, so these types of groups. So yeah, it seems like a plan basically, more or less, for the next Trump White House to be staffed with people on our side and not the other side. So we'll see how successful this group is. It seems to be something of a political action group or something like that. But yeah, this seems good. I'm glad someone's trying to do this for sure. I definitely think we need that. We definitely need a plan for the next administration to get what we want and get the people we want. So, you know, I think it's a good thing. It seems to, if you're talking about the same thing I'm looking at right now, Project 2025 seems to be a good idea to me. But here we go. Eric Peterson for $5 says, how do you ask a mushroom its sexual identity? I'd prefer some bigoted steak any day of the week. Thank you for the $5, Eric Peterson. Well, therein you have the entire logic upon which, quote unquote, like LGBT science is built, right? They say, oh, well, animals are gay, so this is gay. Look, you know. And their idea of, and by the way, even I would say their basis of that is wrong. Because just because a dog humps things indiscriminately, oh, dogs hump other guy dogs. Yeah, and they also hump the couch and your leg and whatever they can stick it into, right? Like that's the truth, right? So I don't know if even using the parallel of animal behavior is, you know, a good analogy. But even then, you would make the argument that the action they're trying to simulate is the furtherance of the species, which is done through straight dog sex, right? So yeah, but point being, that's the basis of their logic on this. Oh, mushrooms are gay because mushrooms pollinate and are different colors, and look at this. So that means just that means the reason you have to accept drag queen story hour for your kids is because, look, nature is gay. Look at mushrooms. It's just a bunch of nonsense. It is a bunch of nonsense. And like I said, I think my take on how they basically just want to psyop you and convince you to defy reality, I genuinely think that's what it's about. 100%. Is because a lot of the ideas that their political movement is based on a fundamental just rejection of reality. The more they can convince normal people to just not accept things that make sense and just accept ridiculous things, the easier it is to eventually push towards, you know, what they want for human beings in the end. I think that's what it's all about. Thank you for the $5, Eric Peterson. Appreciate it very much. Paul Kim for $2 says, how do we get Rogan to interview Vince Dow? I don't know. Go in his replies or something, you know. He does know who I am. He does know who I am. He follows me on Instagram, but you know, we have not set up the podcast yet. I don't know if I'm truthfully big enough yet for that podcast, but you know, I don't know. We could just start a movement or something, right? He does know who I am. So there is that. Thank you for the $2, Paul Kim. I appreciate it very much. Charles Ray for $10 says, I think we lost 2022 for one reason. Election deniers and Trump being soft on January 6th stuff. Democracy was the number one reason. New Hampshire vote blue for healthcare and education. Thank you for the $10, Charles Ray. So you said we lost because of election denial and Trump, and then said New Hampshire voted blue because of healthcare and education. Which one is it? Which one is it? I mean, I would argue fundamentally there's a lot of political issues at play. I think the main reason we lost 2022 is because we did not have a turnout game to beat their turnout game. I think that's what it was really about. I don't think it had a lot to do with election denial or anything like that. A lot of the people who lost prominently weren't even election deniers, right? Like, it was Blake Masters an election denier, quote unquote election denier. Was Herschel Walker an election denier? Is that why he lost? You know, John Gibbs. So I don't know, but thank you for the $10, Charles Ray. Appreciate the input for sure. Let's take a look at what else we got going on here. Go on the Whatever podcast. We've talked about that for so long, and it's never happened. Look, I am going on Tim Pool, okay? We're going on Tim Pool on this Friday in 2 days. So that's exciting. That's exciting, right? But, yeah, you know, that would definitely be fun. That would certainly be fun, to say the least. It's impossible to know the true reason or collection of reasons that led to the 2022 results, but one thing certainly resulted is the creation of a large population of voters lacking confidence. I think that predates 2022. I think it goes back to 2020. But you're right about that, Paul Kim. You're certainly right about that. So, you know, very real, very real. Let me check Streamlabs, make sure we didn't get any Streamlabs exclusive. I'm getting congested here. Bad news. Streamlabs exclusive donations. I don't think we did. We got another one here. The super chats are coming in tonight, guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Christopher Alcine for $2 says, Trump lost for being too confident. Thank you for the $2. I mean, I don't know if I'd put it that way, but I certainly see the truth in what you're saying, which is that I really think it comes down to, you know, although I do think those things happened in 2020, absolutely happened. I think that we could have overcome them if we understood what we kind of understand now, which is that, look, this thing is based on turnout. There's a lot of holes in it. But if we can get a turnout machine that matches their turnout machine, you know, you can overcome those 42,000 votes, right? So I think realistically in 2020, if our approach was, hey, look at what the Democrats are doing. Besides even the funny business, what were they organically doing? They were harvesting votes like crazy. They used all those drop boxes in election month and all the changes in election laws, not just to commit, you know, but also to do genuinely what they did. Also, we should just get a lot of votes. Hey, it's easier to vote now. So everyone go turn in, you know, automatic voter registration. Hey, you don't want to go show up to the polls, put it in a drop box, all this stuff. They made sure they got everyone who was on their side to vote. And we were stuck in saying, hey, only vote on election day because all this other laws suck. Which, yes, the hardcore base should vote on election day. If you're out there, you should still vote on election day. But we should have done what kind of a similar principle I say now, which is you have to embrace the system that you're given. Did I like any of the 2020 election reforms? No, I still want to get rid of them. But look, we didn't have time for that necessarily, you know? This is the election in 2020. We should have said, all right, let's all go ballot harvest for ourselves. Let's all get a Republican turnout machine for ourselves. And I think if we had done that, considering the widespread popular support for Trump already, you certainly could have hit the point, right? Where all of the funny business, all of the, you know, ballot drops at certain hours don't matter because we just overwhelm the system with our own turnout machines. So, you know, I definitely see the point for sure in what you're saying there, for sure. for sure. But let's take a look here. All right, we're going to end the stream here at 10:15. So last call, any super chats you want to send in. And again, folks, we will not be live tomorrow or Friday because we're going on Timcast IRL. So I'll be flying out there and that should be fun. So be sure to join us on Tim Pool Friday night. I think they go live at 8, I think, right? So I'll be on that and that'll be fun. That'll be fun and very exciting. So be sure to join us then. I'll put out an announcement to remind everyone, but definitely what we got to do for sure. So everyone be sure to tune in there. California GOP at least grew enough brain cells to use ballot boxes too. They saw some real gains. And that's important to point out. In the 2022 election, you talk about all the disappointments. California Republicans actually did pretty well. I think we flipped a lot of state house and congressional seats in Southern California and stuff. Why? Because they embraced the strategy of ballot harvesting. Because, hey, it's how the system works in California. Democrats use it to get high turnout, so use it for yourself to also get high turnout. My understanding is they basically went to the nursing homes and stuff like that and just got a bunch of ballots. They took the same turnout approach and look what happened. As broken and as unideal as the California voting system is, I don't like it. It shouldn't be this way. American democracy, quote unquote, the republic, I should say, shouldn't work this way. But they understood that it did. And what did they do? They went in there and they managed to win. Despite all the nonsense, they managed to win a couple seats there. Why? Because they, the central principle we talked about a few times tonight, right? Played the game that was in front of them to the best of their ability, right? Instead of wishing it was a different game, which, yes, it should be one day, one vote, everyone in person. But instead of wishing it was a different game, playing the game that is in front of us and doing the best with what we can do right now, right? Seems to be the central theme of the night. All right, these will be the last few super chats. So like I said, last call, but let's get to these two. Eric Peterson for $2 says, favorite host of The View. How can I say a favorite host? They all suck. I mean, not that I've watched it a lot, but from what, okay, let me be fair, because I don't want to, if the conservative lady on The View now is someone better, then apologies to her. But the right-wing representation on The View before, back when I remember, was literally Meghan McCain, okay? That was their right-wing Republican ambassador on The View, was Meghan McCain. So I don't know who it is now. In fairness, I don't know who it is now, because every time I react, I'm only paying attention to Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg, and occasionally Ana Navarro. Those are the only people I know, is the people I criticize, right? So I don't know who the conservative on The View is now, and frankly, whatever. I'm not particularly desperate to learn who they are. So with that said, I'll take the opposite approach, which is who is my favorite to A-log and make fun of. I'd probably say Ana Navarro. Okay, Ana Navarro is my least favorite because she claims to be a principled Republican and she's a total liberal, and I think she's actually the most obnoxious of them all, in my opinion. So I will declare her my favorite to criticize and react to. So I'm going to say Ana Navarro for that reason. But thank you for the $2, Eric Peterson. Not a great question, man. Not an easy question to answer. Because I don't know enough of the woman on The View for that. But thank you for the $2. Appreciate it very much. Dollar for $2 says, have you ever been to Memphrica? If you mean Memphis, I've never been to Memphis. I've never been to the state of Tennessee. Still, I gotta go at some point. Gotta see Nashville and all that, but have never been to Tennessee. So, to answer your question, I have not. Thank you for the $2. And this should be the last super chat, I believe. Okay, Rowley Gonzalez for $2. Thank you very much. Rowley says, super cool that you are going on Tim Pool. Stay winning. Thank you for the $2. I appreciate it. Yeah, like I said, be sure to join us Friday night on Timcast IRL. We will be there. So yeah, thank you for the $2. Appreciate it very much. And if we got no more other super chats, folks, then I will wrap it up there. Thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight. Like I said, be sure to tune in to Timcast IRL on Friday night. And until I see you, then there will be videos, obviously. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Everyone have a very good night. Be sure to leave a like on the stream before you go. Let's get to Let's get to 100 likes before we go. And until next time, Alpha Moves only. Have a very good night. God bless. See you later. And peace. Where's the outro? There it Damn it. You guys lucked out. You guys got so lucky. No, you didn't. Never mind. Shh, you didn't hear me. You don't hear me.
Okay, I just want to make this little video today because it's a little concerning. I'm seeing a lot of anti-blackness in general. Like a lot of anti-blackness from the Asians. Okay? You know, they're talking about Asian hate, but I think it's more like black hate. Okay, and I just want to point something out that, you know, the original Japanese was black. Right here, here's a picture. These are clearly African features on these indigenous people. And the story goes that in 25 BC, a ship from Africa, from a Hukong Kinte, who was one of the African kings of Ghana, sailed the ship all the way from Ghana, and he got lost. He was trying to explore the new world, and he ended up in Japan. So in Japan, they made a colony, and it was the first Japanese Afro colony in the world. So these Afro-Ghanaians, they started interbreeding with the Japanese women. And so they created the first black Japanese population. So if we use the one drop rule, according to that, the calculation would be that actually Japanese is around 45 to 65% black. So I just wanted to let y'all know and give y'all a little history lesson to correct it, because United States schools don't show this, but a lot of Japanese carry the black gene, and so do China. So these Chinese and Asians, we should be supporting each other, because Chinese are black, Japanese are black, and the whole Asia is black.